Thank you for joining us for this elevated conversation. If you're like me, you spent the ride up here staring at your feet. And if you're not like me, I'm envious. Just a couple thoughts to sort of set the stage for the conversation we're going to have tonight. One, we started TIME100 AI 3 years ago with the aspiration that time could be your trusted guide to this technological transformation. And so our hope is that as everyone in this room tries to make sense of this moment, that you can look to time to help better understand what this technology means for you and for your life. And the second point, which I think this stage really exemplifies, is our belief that progress is made, solutions happen through bringing people together and through bringing us out of our silos. We really can't achieve what we want to achieve at this moment without picking our heads up out of our companies, our businesses, our worlds, and looking across to other worlds to better understand the future. So with that in mind, I'm very excited to introduce tonight's panel. Starting on the end, we have, just so I have my cards, and the title's correct, because I know titles are important. Shelley Branston, the Corporate Vice President of Worldwide Industry Solutions at Microsoft and the Technology Partner for Ask Ralph. Welcome, Shelley. Thank you. David Lauren is the Chief Branding and Innovation Officer at Ralph Lauren. That's right. And Sue-Eng Chung is an award-winning artist and best known to those of us at Time as a TIME100 AI honoree. David, since we are here on the occasion of Ask Ralph, I'm going to ask David the first question. You started at Ralph Lauren 25 years ago. Congratulations on that milestone, although I believe your affiliation with Ralph Lauren extends earlier in your life. You were one of the first brands to bring, luxury brands, to really move into digital retail. And I'm curious, as you look back to that moment, are there lessons that you learned then that you think apply to this moment?
Thank you. First of all, thank you for having us. Thank you to Time, and thank you for what you do, because you inspire us every day to do what we do. And thank you, Sam. When we started our website 25 years ago, it was not a popular thing to do. It was considered high risk. It was considered a place where people wouldn't shop for a luxury item, and you would wait for AOL to get started, and you'd see all these little pictures. But we connected with you guys at Microsoft, and we took a gamble to do something that would be different and new. And I think the idea for us is to always push forward, no matter what you're doing. Our company started as a tie company, evolved into men's, then women's, then children, then home, hospitality, retail. No one ever thinks that where you are is where you can possibly be. And I think the idea that you constantly reinvent yourselves is the key. And that's the learning, is that anything can happen, and you just sort of put your foot forward. And artificial intelligence is going to bring that speed of risk-taking and change into the future, and it's exciting.
Shelley, you worked with David and his team on this. Are there specific challenges to fashion and retail when it comes to creating an AI experience for consumers?
I also just want to build on something David said, which is Polo.com was really the first. And David himself appeared 25 years ago at Comdex with Bill Gates, who apparently said, people are going to buy suits on the internet to you. And so I just really think, the sort of the history of being first and things that we can't even imagine today that technology can do seem so obvious now. But your question about sort of what's hard about this, there's a lot of pieces that I would say we're still learning side by side with retailers and brands. When we came in and first started to think about the partnership, David had a strong vision for Ask Ralph, but sort of the technology for technology's sake is a fool's errand. And so I think the most important piece was the partnership piece. I joked with my team. We had so many slides and so many demos when we found out that Ralph Lauren was inviting them into their offices to talk about Ask Ralph. And David said, we're going to take you to our store. And we're going to spend 3 hours, and you're going to meet our sales associates. You're going to watch our customers shop. You're going to feel our product. And so I think what's hard is actually making sure you're applying the technology to the experience of the brand and making sure that the AI, which I think, we're incredibly proud of Ask Ralph at Microsoft, because I think it starts to bring the front door of Ralph Lauren to so many consumers around the world.
Sue-Ann, how can art help us better understand the potential for AI? And then maybe how has AI helped you better understand the potential for art?
I think that's a great question. I love hearing kind of your stories about how to integrate something like an AI system or responsive system into your work, because I think there's so much fear in the world today about that kind of implementation and translation, definitely in the sectors of art and culture. And I think for me, art has been able to really shine a window into how we build these very human experiences into something that remains a very human experience. It just has this other layer of interpretation and data and technology. For how it's worked with my work is I started collaborating with a robotic system that I built, trained on 2 decades of my own data about 11 years ago, as a way of really understanding about how it's affecting my own creativity, how to improve as an engineer. And I think what you said about just trying to implement and learn step by step has been a really, I think, a way of gathering knowledge through just experimentation that I think is useful for any sector.
David, we launched TIME100 AI because we really wanted to emphasize the role that people play in this technology. But we find that many people find AI to be really dehumanizing. And I'm curious how you think about a brand like yours, how you can use AI to better connect people to Ralph Lauren.
Well, first of all, I'm here with a team that helped to execute this. And some are at this table, some of you guys are spread out. The truth is, we start with what we as people feel we need. And if AI is the right technology to help solve those challenges, then that's very rewarding. Sometimes it's not, and there are other technologies that we'll explore to help us solve our problems. But it doesn't start with the technology usually. Although we look at what technologies are out there, we might find something that we say, oh, that's cool, we could use that for this. But it generally starts with the challenge or the problem. And that's a very human thing. For us, it was very simple. We're a company that has grown around the world. We've got salespeople in stores, and they don't know how to put the clothes together. So that's like a simple thing. Could technology help you get dressed in the morning? And could you do it in a way that is simple enough that you won't feel overwhelmed and you won't find it confusing, and it will be live in real-time experience? What technology works? And AI worked. This idea started 25 years ago. It has had iterations over the years, but we finally found the right marriage with the right technology to bring an age-old question to life.
Shelley, I won't ask you to look ahead 25 years, but
Thank you. I won't have the answer.
you're welcome. But look ahead 5.
Okay.
What is the potential for this technology? What do you think it's going to be able to do for consumers?
Yeah, I mean, and I think, David tipped it. I mean, the reality is that people are there already. Like 60% of consumers now in the US are using AI for product recommendations, for finding deals, and for more information about products themselves. So, I think that I have an interesting, you mentioned background because I lived in retail for a long time and now technology, but websites themselves have not changed in terms of the fundamental structure for 25 years in terms of sort of, the top navigation, the left navigation. Someone on my team calls the search bar the universal symbol of disappointment because people are searching, and so I do think the traditional marketing or retail funnel of like search, click, checkout, is changing dramatically. And so what I love about the vision for Ask Ralph, and where I think, maybe not 25 years out, I think it's sooner. I really do. But I think the conversational way in which Ask Ralph works, where you go from like the old world of kind of clicks and carts to conversation, which is the thing as old as time, is where retail's going. And the conversation between the customer and Ask Ralph on what should I wear to an event that Time Magazine is hosting can open the door to all sorts of other conversations about, where's my package, or all sorts of other things that will bring down the barriers between consumers and brands. So that's where I think we're going, and I think it's going to happen a lot faster than any of us will have expected, which is why this is such an exciting moment for us.
So when we're talking about one name tonight, Ralph, and I'm curious if you could tell this group about another one name, which is Doug. Would you tell everyone what you've learned from Doug?
Sure. So Doug, Drawing Operations Unit Generation 1 to 6, is the name of the collaborative drawing system that I've been building over the past 10 years. And I think each generation evolves with the technology that I think is just really interesting in that present day. So in 2015, it was recurrent neural networks, and 2018, it was optical flow algorithms. And I've learned so many interesting things about working and building the system, but I think one of the ones that apply most to this conversation is that these systems are creative catalysts. It's a different way to engage with the creative process of picking out what to wear, of expressing yourself. And I think it can be the start of a really interesting dialogue between your customers and like the model, right? They can sort of rate. I haven't used the app yet, but I will. But I think there's an interesting feature and a communication layer there around communicating user preferences in a way that I reinforce with my own drawing systems. So it's a different type of sculpting of data and technology, but I think it's one that opens up a really vital and contemporary conversation about how we feed back to these systems. So yeah, it's just very exciting to find these other layers.
David, these tools are jumping up everywhere right now. Why build one within Ralph Lauren? Why not just, access some, you put your data on OpenAI or wherever it can go? Why was it important for you to have your own owned and operated tool?
Well, I don't think it did exist, and I don't think that it was going to help us the way we wanted to be helped. I mean,
This is something you didn't see out in the world.
we didn't see it out there. You could go online and do a Google search and say, like, how do I put a look together? But we're dealing with real-time inventory. So, like, if the shirt sold out 5 minutes before, it's not helpful. So you want to know exactly what I can do. I'm going out tonight, or I'm going out this weekend. How do I pull together, something for a wedding? It's going to be in a hotel in Vermont. It's going to keep getting smarter also. It'll tell you now the temperature, and maybe someday it'll tell you the style of that street that it's on, and here's the attitude. But ultimately, what does exist is new technologies to use in new ways. We were looking at technology today where, maybe you can see it, but now you can see yourself standing in a hotel in Istanbul, or you can see yourself, in a million looks, and it just keeps changing it with your face there. All the things we imagine, it's all happening slowly, but it's happening.
And Jelly, what are the risks and rewards for the type of data that's used to process and support the vision that David's describing?
Yeah, I mean, I think, obviously the relationship that Ralph Lauren has to their customers and the trust that customers put in the brand and the experience. I mean, I think to your other question, consumers want to have a relationship with Ralph Lauren, and then the rich history of data, whether it's all the content that they have and the way in which items get styled together. That's really all part of the brand. And so, I mean, I know for us on the Microsoft side, and there's been a lot written about it, art, I think, has been a fantastic way to challenge technology companies in this area, is around the responsible use of AI. And so, I mean, that was one of the earliest conversations. We have, on our side, 6 AI responsible principles, and it is all about, privacy and security and transparency. Like, you can't let the machines get ahead of the people. And so, that has to be a principle, and a principle we've had from the beginning. Because if that happens, then, it's a very different experience.
I think, Sue, one of the threads running through this conversation is about collaboration, which is a key theme of your work. And I'm curious how you think about both the collaboration between the human and the machine, but also specifically, between an artist and a luxury house, work that you've done before. What makes for successful collaboration?
I haven't done so many collaborations with fashion. I'm very interested in that, but I think I did do a collaboration with Bulgari I think 2 years ago. And I think when values align, like with any partnership, it's really easy to move forward. I think it's for that collaboration, it was really thinking about what artisanal technology and craft is in 2025. Really thinking about what is kind of timeless in how we create these works of art, and how we create jewelry that's also a work of art. So I think there's those alignments are really at the center of what we're interested in. I think also brands that are really pushing forward and setting great examples for how to use emerging technology is also really key, because we've seen a lot of the kind of not so interesting actors out there, but I think we're really, when we support and collaborate with kind of the right approach, I think we're sending the right message.
David, you started to talk about this when you worked with the Microsoft team. You took them to a store. And everyone knows what it feels like to be in a space that's created by Ralph Lauren. How do you think about that in a virtual or digital setting? What are your priorities? How do you make sure that when I access this tool, it feels like, to your point, that I'm walking into one of the spaces that you've built?
It's a good question. I mean, when we started, we realized that the experience inside of a store is what makes it special. Clothes are just clothes, but what we try to do is create a movie, create an experience with how you wear the clothes, the context that you wear the clothes, the world that inspires you, that we build around the clothes. You're stepping onto a stage set, and you want to live out that movie. And if you go to the internet and it's a flat screen and it's just a shirt and it's just a pair of pants, no one needs a shirt and no one needs a pair of pants. But what you have to do is to inspire them by building the dream. We do it through movies, we do it through videos, we do it through advertising campaigns. But online, you need to build the whole gestalt. And so we try to create voices and stories that build that context. So when you're reading about a pair of old jeans, there's a story about an old barn that maybe inspired those jeans. And when you're reading about the look of that woman, maybe there's an interview with a celebrity or a personality who literally lives out that story that inspired us, and she will inspire you. With Ask Ralph, in reality, it was consumer is one type of person we're trying to talk to. It's also we want to train and develop our own employees. We want them to understand the culture of what we're doing, because you can wear things a million different ways. It's just clothes. It's boring. But when you are making a movie,
Doesn't sound like a new
exciting.
tagline, but
Yeah.
I like clothes.
But it gets exciting when you use technology to bring it to life, and all of a sudden you've rethought what it is you're making, and that's our job, is to take a classic and put it through a new lens, a modern lens, and then all of a sudden people see it in a new way, and it evolves your entire brand and your entire culture.
Shelley, I'm curious, as someone whose career has taken her across retail and fashion and then enterprise technology, how would you rate luxury's ability to innovate?
Well, I mean, I think it does go back to what David was saying. Like, you have to stay true to your brand and what your brand stands for. In sort of the old world, luxury was more fast follower in terms of e-commerce. And there was a lot of concern about how could you bring a luxury experience to a flat screen? Were you going to disrupt the physical store business? But what we saw definitely through many customers, not just luxury, is that between COVID as like really teaching brands about how important the online experience was, and now fast forward to where we are with AI, I'm not seeing anybody be slow. Let's just put it that way. I think we do see many customers sort of get into pilot purgatory, and sort of think about the art of the possible with 250 use cases. And so what we really loved about Ask Ralph was there was such a clear vision in terms of what the team wanted to deliver, but also a mindset about experimentation. I mean, there was something that David said in some of the press that I thought was so fascinating about, because like the number of models that are getting released in the technology world, it's hard for even us at Microsoft to keep up with. And David said, in a way, training the model is the same way you train a new sales associate. They don't know everything when they start, but it gets smarter, every day and every time you use it. And I think, and by the way, Ask Ralph has now inspired this whole industry. I've got Matcha here from NRF. I mean, it's interesting. It was sort of like a shot that was heard around the world. And so I think having both sort of that clear vision of what you want to deliver, as well as the excitement and the culture to experiment, has changed things in the conversation a lot.
David, I want to give you the last question. You've described Ask Ralph as like having Ralph Lauren in your pocket, an image that I can't get out of my head. What's the one piece of advice that he's given you that's always stayed with you when it comes to getting dressed in the morning?
It's interesting. I'm looking at you. When I was a kid, my dad used to wear this to work, and nobody would ever think to wear a fringe jacket to work. And I used to laugh at him when he put a cowboy hat on in New York City, and even cowboy boots. And when you start to mix and play, you're having fun, and you become a character, and you enjoy your life. And I think there's a certain joy and confidence and inspiration that clothing and style can bring to the world. And we're living in a world that's changing very quickly. And just to have a little chance to sort of go inside your head and be able to play and be joyous is very fulfilling. And I learned that very young.
Well, thank you all very much. I hope this conversation bringing together technology, fashion, and art has inspired you about what's possible with AI today. So thank you.